Welcome back to the Blu-XPerience Flight Sim and Aviation Podcast. My name is Blue, and both me and XP got invited by Xbox to the Grand Canyon for an exclusive preview of the new Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. And so today we have a few very special guests, none other but the creators of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. And also, this interview is in collaboration with Mover from Mover Ruins Movies. And we both had some really good questions about how this new flight sim was built, how realistic is it, and how much has changed since the old version. So let's get started with Jorg.
Well, I want to start out. Congratulations on another Microsoft Flight Sim.
Oh, thank you.
It's very awesome to have that. I've been a fan since the early days, and I'm still a fan. So
awesome. Great.
We talked about pre-release, and I'm still a fan, regardless of what level of release. One thing that I want to ask you and kind of commend you on, you talk about accessibility with Microsoft Flight Sim, and my big thing with my channel is like make them tell you no, trying to inspire the next generation, because we have a pilot shortage nationwide, worldwide, stuff like that. Is that part of your consideration as you move towards missions? You know, when I first saw the release trailer, the first thing I said was, this is awesome, because a kid who doesn't know how to do this will kind of get a good idea of the process. Is that part of your thought matrix?
It definitely is, and it's because of who talks to me. It's actually probably just, I try to listen, honestly, in life. And so I talk to manufacturers a lot, and they tell me what you just said. Hey, there's a pilot shortage. Like China alone, I think, needs 400,000 pilots, 800,000 worldwide. There's not enough level D. There's not enough in the entire spectrum of learning. There's not enough. And they all say, please help us. The other thing that's happening is we talk to stuff like Sécurité Civile, which probably doesn't tell you much, but it's the center of firefighting in Europe, which happens to be in France. And they said, we need more people. Like, we need recruitment. And I said, okay, same with the Coast Guard. I talk to the Coast Guard a lot because I live in Seattle. And they have the same problem. They're like, can we get people in a playful way to understand what we do and hopefully fall in love or see the purpose of it all and stay? And so they all volunteered. That's the cool thing. Like they all said, hey, if you want to know how we do our job, I mean the firefighting guys are like, we tell you how fire propagates. We tell you how to do corridors. We tell you that. They want us to be successful, and I think that's why it's probably the thing that makes me the most happy about this entire endeavor of Flight Sim. It was always like the as real as real gets, and as real as it gets, all that stuff. But I think we're really impacting the real world. That's what makes me so happy, and I think that's where we can really make a difference. And it's not, and what I like about this whole thing over the last few years, the thing I've learned is, you know, you run into people like Chris from Working Title or the Brandons, you know, people that are passionate. They're doing it out of either the goodness of their hearts or because they fell in love, and all you need to do is let them do their thing. It comes down to that. And then we'll be better for it. The whole thing will be better for it. And for example, if the Coast Guard wants to come by and wants to test this, let's have it, and let's tell us how to make it better. The ATR people came in. We did this ATR plane, right, because they wanted us to. They put it in their training center. They give us feedback. They said, hey, our pilots love it now, and then there's a new version coming out. And they're like, can you put that in? We're like, sure, why not? And I think it's all these little pieces when they come together. It forms sort of an us, which I think is the best thing. It's a unique thing, I think, in gaming, right? The flight sim community I can't tell of anything else that is like this, but it all comes from a similar desire of doing good. I think the flight simmers are really caring, thoughtful, very researched, and I think if we do this right, I sometimes think about this as a sandbox. You know, I changed my mind a little how I think about this. I always said, hey, there's a sandbox called the Earth, and then people come in and the simmers come in, they have their shovels, and they already know I'm going to build a tunnel here, and that they know what they want to do. And the other people come to the sandbox, they're like, oh, fun sandbox. What am I doing here? And go in, they start playing. But that's sort of on the consumer side. I think the sandbox is also from the world side. I think as long as we're open, we can go have people integrate what they think is important into this. And right now, I really want to focus on flight simulation. Somebody earlier said, hey, why don't you do train sim? Well, you know, because it's a thing by itself.
Don't get me started on that.
Well, if you want to do it right, it's going to take us a long time. We need to talk to the right people. We need to have relationships with people that run trains. I'm not against it. I'm just not for it now, because we still have things to do, and let's listen. We're launching 20 flights in 2024. Is it going to be perfect? No. I don't have one moment where I think we're going to make the perfect sim. I think we'll have another great sandbox, and if we listen carefully and we make the changes that people are telling us are needed, then we're going to have something truly awesome. The career system thing, that's brand new. We're putting our toe in the water. Yeah. We'll see what we hear, and I want to evolve it over time, but we need to have people experience it and tell us what's good, not so good, and keep going.
We was just talking about feedback. One of the things we were talking about is having accessibility to the missions outside the career field.
Yes.
Which is...
That's funny. You should talk to David about this, because I talked to him about this last night.
We just did. He is not very happy about that, but he's like, no, I'm doing it this way. This is what, he's very passionate about it.
It's funny, because I said the same thing. I said, we are forking people to go career or free flight, and what people really want to do is free flight. There was an idea when we first started, was fly through the world, and then as you fly, somebody's in trouble, and you have to opt
Airwolf.
in.
That's pretty much Airwolf. Yeah. That's Airwolf.
Exactly. But I think he's also right in that at some point you need to get people to engage with something, and I think this will merge back in. This is my prediction. The future is the future, but I think we'll do this. We'll see what people do, how they do it. We'll get tons of feedback, no doubt. And long term, I said, look, right now 95% of all time is spent in free flight. We have the data. I can look at it every day, right? 95%.
Wow.
What do I think the career is going to do? I think everybody's going to try it, and some people will love it, and some people will just do the career. I have no doubt.
Yeah.
But I think it might be 20%, which means 80% are going to do free flight.
Right.
But then they also want to have the cool missions and the cool stuff that you can do, right? So I think this is all just, as I said, this is when I say this is just the beginning. I think we're going to have to dial this in. We're doing something new. I think it's cool. How it's really going to resonate with everybody, we'll have to wait and see how they really feel about it after playing it for a few weeks or a few months or whatever.
Another thing we were telling him was that it'd be nice that third parties and users could create their own missions as well.
Well, the SDK does that. So we're doing, Dustin is on the floor, but he works with, Perfect Flight and another creator, his name is Norbert. Like all the missions we do for world updates and stuff are done by external folks with the SDK tools, and that's what we're going to do, right? All the missions that we make as we roll forward are going to be done with external folks.
Yeah.
Have you thought about partnering? We were going on the topic of pilot shortages and stuff, like partnering with some of these, outreach groups, AOPA, just to make it something that is actually a usable, almost trainer.
So I get asked that all the time, but basically we have some restrictions.
Yeah.
And the restrictions are the manufacturers of aircraft have their own way they want to teach people how to fly the aircraft. Mm-hmm. Like just imagine the big airliner folks, right? So we are actually not allowed to be a official training tool. It would have to be a different product, which people ask us all the time to make that different product. We might even experiment with some of these things, but it can't be the same one. Right. So it could be maybe one day there's a professional edition or some such thing, but I think I talked to the FAA once. Wow. Have you ever talked to the FAA? Yes. That was a trip. So I was like, hey, I'm doing this and this, and they're like, Jörg, nothing. Everything takes 8 years or longer. I'm like, ooh, okay.
That's not how we work around here.
I was like, so this is a medium-term thing. I got it, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't try or that it's the right thing.
Right.
I think ultimately, the sense I get from people is that we have a very unique tool that is good for the real world. Mm-hmm. So it's good for flight simulation, which has its attributes in the real world, but people who actually do jobs, they use it, just not in an official capacity. And I think the whole get certified and all those things, this is something that will happen, and I think it will be driven by not us. I think it's somebody else asking to use the tool we've made for other purposes, and then all we have to say is, yes, that's easy.
It's been more military than ever before, right? With an A-10 in a launch edition. I mean, this is probably the first time that I remember.
I think it's true.
Have you considered using some of the career stuff, and I know it's in its infancy, of undergraduate pilot training and like T6s, T38s, because that's not hurting anything?
No, the Talon is on my radar for sure.
Okay.
For a variety of reasons, actually. So I have nothing against training as far as becoming some pursuit. Why not? Like that's just totally in the product. Do I want to turn this into it's not about me, but do I think it's right to turn this into a military sim? No, I don't think so. I think that should be a different thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, there were all kinds of concerns from people. Hey, can you fly an F-18 fully decked out with weapons towards an airliner? Is this really what you want in a screenshot? I'm like, well, I don't control the screenshots. What am I supposed to do about this? You know. So, but do I need to push it that way? I mean, my personal opinion. I grew up with this stuff. Like I was on U.S. Navy fighters and Marine fighters early in the day. Things you don't remember, like Wings of Glory and things. I think it's a different skill. Certainly combat. I don't know if you said that, but like
no, I'm just talking basic. Like
just basic
from UPT, which is undergraduate pilot training, to IFF.
Yeah, I think we should.
Basics.
I think we should go do those types of things. I think that's where I would probably leave it. Even in air refueling that was just done by Miltech, which I haven't tried yet, but I want to try it.
That, yeah.
Oh, I want to try this. It sounds fun. But should we do that? Sure. Well, that to me is completely different. That's just a pilot pursuit. That's a skill, right? I mean, hitting that thing. I mean, I watched all these Billboard videos. It's crazy.
The reason I say that is because you're inspiring kids to do it. Right? I mean, it's about information, and this is you've got so many users that you know this is a good way to.
I have to say, I mean, I did play DCS. I think it's great actually. You know, sometimes the world doesn't need another. Just because there is something that does a good job. You know.
No, it's fun to fly a Hornet in, civilian airspace.
Sure.
And it's superpower coming through.
Yeah.
Right? Slow to 250, unable. See you later.
Yeah. I have a few questions that you probably already are prepared for.
Oh, I don't prepare.
So we'll just shoot through them real quick. I know some of these are like on your radar and whatnot. So weather improvements, weather radar capability, is that coming in yet?
So the weather radar, it's the tilting of the weather radar. So I think it's doable now, actually. So we were if you haven't talked to Seb, you should talk to Seb about it. It's one of those things. It's not technically difficult. The only thing we don't have is the weather far, far, far away. That is a limitation of the system. It's like how much you can hold in memory. But he is infinitely better at this than I am, so I don't want to bore you with my half answer.
He
knows much more than this.
Oh, that's good. What about shared cockpit?
It was on our list. It was one of those things. We made a prototype. It does work. It's not ready.
Gotcha. So it won't be released for 2020.
No.
Gotcha.
No. But it's something that was. I mean, I write this feedback snapshot. I write it. Right? So I'm very aware of what people are saying.
It's always asked.
Oh, I mean, it's not before I think or something like that. So I'm very aware. I try if I could have found a partner to do it for us, I would have hired a partner. But in this case, this is intrinsic to the sim and to the multiplayer of the sim, and that's really difficult to do external. So we did stuff like, camera replay. That you can find like Fabio. I don't know if you followed that stuff at all. You can say, "Hey Fabio, you want to work with us?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." That can't really be done. So this needs to be done at a Sobo and needs to be done correctly, and it's just a matter of time. Are we going to do it? For sure. It's just a question of when.
Can you interact with objects in the world in first person? I know you can do them around like physics. I know you can move, you can interact with the chocks and.
Yes, the answer is no.
Like other things, like say somebody made a scenery and want to have opening doors.
We had a conversation just last night at dinner where I said, it's a game thing. Half-Life. I don't know if you've
heard of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Half-Life was the funnest thing in Half-Life. Yeah, you can shoot the aliens and all that stuff. But like, it's the actual physics puzzles where you just do random, you mess with the world. And I said that exact same thing. I said, I really think we should populate the world with physical objects. So you can pick up whatever, and Seb's reaction was, well, then people are going to throw it on the Eiffel Tower. I'm like, yeah, I know, that's cool. So I think this is
like that's the next step. Right now that we can walk around anywhere in the world, now what can I do away from my plane?
There is more to be done. I wanted something because I do bush trips right now. It's actually much harder to land, but anyways, and I wanted to throw a drone in the air and just fly around because once you realize how big everything is in the world, you don't really want to walk it.
No, you don't.
So you go to the El Capitan, you're like, it's amazing. Let's walk over there.
Nope.
Yeah, 2 hours. I said, no thanks. So I wanted to have a drone. I said, why don't we just have a button and the drone flies up and then you can steer the drone around. It doesn't work because we are actually not a full-fledged character. We are transferring the entity that is you from the plane to the character, but you don't have an inventory system and stuff like that. But this is definitely something we need to do for the long term, even medium term. This is something we need. And then you can do stuff like this, have like an inventory, pull out those little tools, do some stuff that's fun. You know,
start a fire by
the camp for sure.
You can have guys fighting fire on the ground.
So it's funny you bring that up. So me and my buddies were talking about the same thing. Like in multiplayer, what if someone were to start a fire, but then you call in York to put out the fire? We actually were talking about that.
The one I would think, we were talking last time about if when you, in your careers and missions doing law enforcement.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because I just started doing that in real life, and having the tracker systems, the FLIR pod, looking at stuff. There's all kinds of like cool missions that you can do that aren't necessarily high risk. Like just go surveil a house, just go look at this.
So we talked about doing these. Like this is one of those. I'm serious.
If you need that,
but this is how I love to work. When somebody comes and is like, "Hey, why don't we do this?" I'm like, "Sure, great, let's talk."
Yeah.
That is the cool thing about the sandbox we have. Mm-hmm. It is really, it's only limited by our imagination. Yeah. It's no longer limited by technology. Some of the stuff, shared cockpit, you don't want to do it wrong. If you do that wrong, it's half-assed and you don't want that. But we can come up with new things. Why not?
Is VR the way you're looking
I play VR.
Yeah.
I mean, I play VR a lot because I like it. I need to actually get that new promise. That new, the one everybody tells me, I have a G2, and everybody's like, you need to get
the Pimax.
Pimax, yeah.
That's what everybody says. I know. I'm a little slow.
Is it really that?
Yes.
Yeah, people say it's amazing.
I like the crystal light because it's lighter.
Yeah.
I don't miss the eye tracking because my neck hurts all the time from pulling G's. But if you've got any kind of neck issues.
I have a new machine coming, so I'm getting ready to play for the next 10 weeks, and I really am. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
But I mean, VR for me. I used to fly in real world. I don't do it anymore, but but you're a pilot, right?
Not yet.
You're not yet. I remember how I always moved my butt, right? Just look at the runway. It's like it's the same thing. It's like uncanny. Yeah. So for me, that's the only way to do it.
Let's get a bit more technical. We're going to talk to the CEO of Asobo Studios, Sebastian.
Structurally, do you think people feel like it's just a totally new game, or is it just building off of what was already successful?
I think if you ask this question to David, they're going to talk about the career and the fact that flying now has purpose. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably the biggest difference. I'm going to talk more about technology only. But technology, I would say, the difference is the level of detail of the environment when you get closer to the ground, which has a big impact on whenever you fly in a way that you want to interact, whether it's because you want to land or for a helicopter, whether it's a bush plane helicopter, emergency landing. In 2020, you could pretty much land anywhere except in water. And if you had a water plane, you could land in water. Even on water, even if there was a storm, you could land. It would not do much, right? So on any field, when you do an emergency landing on anything, it was mostly working, right? Now with the amount of detail we have, where we have rocks and mud, and the bumps can be so big, bigger than your wheel. So there's places when you land now, you're just gonna go plop. In the presentation this morning, there's one shot with the kangaroo. Mm-hmm. I took that one, and I actually went there with the plane. And so I had to land, and I had to try 3 times in the area to find a field that was flat enough to actually land and not flip over. Wow. So that's a big change, because now all of a sudden I would say the terrain is meaningful, right? It has you need to pay attention, try to recognize rocks or stuff like that. And I think it's just like in real life. Every time I train with my instructor, and the engine failure, I get it on every flight. And he lets me pick the field, but then I get a why didn't you pick this one? Right. It's like, and so you learn how to, quickly identify which is a better landing spot, because you want to land safely, you don't want to break the plane. Yeah, okay, it happens that you have a failure, but you don't want to break the plane, and they bring it back to the airport, repaired. It's all good, right? If you land and you break the gear and everything is broken, then that's something which is an important part of flying that's new. It's a completely different terrain engine on this part, and I think that's a very significant change. And if you ask that question to David, it's gonna, I think it's gonna feed it into each other, because the career is also more interesting because now the terrain is more interesting.
Yeah, I noticed the ground is more detailed, and also even like in wet weather, I noticed there's more kind of puddles even showing up on the ground.
Yeah.
does that translate to the physics as well? Will you slide more? Or
so actually, there's an interesting story because we implemented. So when we basically had two work streams parallel. One was adding the detail to the ground, and the other was doing. Okay, we need to have basically the type of ground, which impacts the how you skid, the grip, how it slows down the wheel. And these were sort of coming together, both together. And when we had the detail online working, when it was actually finished, we didn't have to do much work on the surfaces anymore. It's basically in the real world how it happens is like there's no such thing as slippery or whatever. This is just very even. And a rough surface is just not very even. And because we now have so much detail, that surface can be rough or not rough or even or stuff like this. This already naturally creates that effect of how much the surface is fast, or if it's slowing you a lot, how much you will skid, if you will bump, and all that. So which in the end means that we only had to do a little bit of work in the end because, well, it's not down to the atom yet, right? We had to help it a little bit. But I was surprised. That's an experience, a learning we found is that when you go into very high detail, you don't need to fake it so much anymore. Because by having parameters, that's fake, right? We decide that tarmac is slippery that much. Mm-hmm. It's not a result of any physics simulation or any sort of. And basically with this new system of this added detail, we had the faking is really reduced a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's all really simulated now because of that detail.
Is that the same with ice on runways? Can ice accumulate? Does that affect the aircraft and how it handles on the ground?
We do icing snow and that. That is, the thing is like ice is even more slippery than tarmac, which is already flat. Mm-hmm. So we don't have that level of detail right now yet, which that would be really molecular, right? To say why is ice so slippery? I think it's also because ice in the end, I've seen scientific data on that. It's not the ice that is slippery, is that when you slide on it, you melt a little bit and it builds this layer of water. And you slide on the water, right? So that's a very complex effect. But yeah, we do that, but that's just ice is slippery. That's it.
And what about tire flexing?
That we have, yeah.
You do, okay.
Yeah, that we have now. That's something we added, and I think we even ported that back in January into 2020. Okay. So now that's a very important, just with a very small GA airplane like a 172. You know, when you start the engine and you idle, the propeller is not slow, it's not turning very fast. In those planes, when you're in, it shakes like bop, 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 bop. Everything is because these are designed for 2,500 RPM in cruise. They're not designed for idle on ground. And that shaking, if it was a rigid body, you can't move. You're on the ground, you can't move. And because the gear and the tires are flexible, that's where you can start moving. Even though you're braking and you're not moving, but you have this, the deformation of the tire allows your plane to move. And so we have that. And if you look at like a powerful light plane like the X-Cub on the tarmac idle, it's get that.
Actually,
like
I tested it. I did.
Yeah.
What about skids?
Oh yeah, well, skids.
Are those just rigid now, or do they flex at all?
A little bit of flex. Yeah, it depends on how. Like on the Cabri, you don't feel it much because the Cabri is light and the skids are very, very, very thick. But yeah, you and in the plane where you choose your plane, you have at the bottom you can change configurations. So you have skids, many different versions of the same aircraft now. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So can you blow tires? Can you if you overspeed a tire, will it pop a tire? Can you get flats?
So we just added the simulation of temperature of brakes. So I think we simulate whether it's carbon or there's two different types of brakes, and in one of them you need to brake very hard, and then on the others you go beep 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 beep. So that we now do. Brakes heat up, they brake slower or faster, and you can use them. And tires, I think we have the temperature. Can they blow up? So I don't think you see it because we don't visualize damage. But I think it's taken into account in the wear and tear. So I think you need to repair them, but you will not see.
So no, if I landed with my feet on the brakes, flat spotted a tire, there's no way to know that.
That would be so cool.
The issue is always we cannot show damage.
Yeah.
We can simulate, but we cannot visually show
Is
damage.
that a rule for Microsoft?
I think it's a general. We don't destroy planes. We don't do explosions. We stay in the peaceful civilian simulation.
Okay, so helicopters, auto rotation into a field, like what's behind us.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot of helicopter auto rotations are run on. It's not just a thing. So the skid friction,
Yes.
is it random, or is it like if it's the right surface, it's gonna you're gonna get that runoff distance, or is it gonna flip you over?
So I did a lot of these, and yeah, on the tarmac and on the dirt it feels completely different. But that's because of the new collision system and the complexity of it and the detail. You have all these little shapes. You don't come in like crazy anymore. You really pay attention. You try to slow it down. You skid a little bit, right? So no, that's completely changed. Whether it's for helicopters, skids, wheels, you will feel the difference of. You just pay so much more attention in the landing to make it right, like in real world, right? Because it very quickly bounces off. The thing we found is it's the same on water, right? When the planes have a vertical speed which is above which we crash, so like 1,500 speed. Okay, but what we measure is the speed of the airplane or the wheel to the surface, right? If you come in at this speed. 1,500 feet per minute, you crash. But now, when your terrain has detail, the surface can be like this, and you're just landing. But now you're coming in way too fast. So that's where, for example, we just had an issue where we had to take into account the average wave shape when you land on a water plane, because people were crashing on a water ripple, because the ripple is like this. So it's like the plane thinks, the sim thinks it's a wall, right? But no, it's just, if you look at it globally, it's still flat. So we had to change that because of the added detail. You would just have a mini wall, like a micro wall, and that's the same for the ground. When you go in with a skid, and you can literally hang on a stone and just turn over like this. Stuff like this can now happen because we have all these shapes in the ground. Yeah.
What about like the other airport objects? Are those collisions? They'll have collisions now, or are they you just go straight through them?
They can. Depends on the creator. Sometimes they put collisions, sometimes no.
Okay.
You can even drop the banner on the buildings and it's gonna collide. So it depends, but it's possible. Yeah, the sim does it.
I don't know if this is aircraft specific. I've noticed a lot in Microsoft Flight Sim. It might also be the replay problem, but when I watch a plane land, I feel like it's very stiff. It looks like it doesn't absorb the G's like it should. Has anything changed with the suspension or the way aircraft react to G's throughout, not just the wheels but the whole aircraft?
Yeah, so that has been improved. It depends a lot on the simulation, on how the suspension is implemented. Whether it's improved in the replay, that I don't know. It can be due to if the replay has only they have keyframes, just like a video. If you have one keyframe before touchdown and then one after, and you miss the touchdown, you will miss all the. So maybe it's a problem of you just need hundreds of keyframes. The core sim has 100 keyframes per second, so it's very high frequency. All the tissue is 500 per second, and maybe it's a keyframe issue. Maybe it's the particular aircraft. But normally now we simulate. We improve the simulation on suspension, on tires, and you should be able to feel this.
Yeah.
But the thing which is maybe missing is that on a big airliner, it's not just the wheel and suspension; it's the whole aircraft which absorbs the shock.
When you watch a plane land, you literally can see it.
It goes. Down. The wings will go down, everything, because the whole thing is soft. I mean, I flew in here with a 787. The last part of the flight was super smooth. It didn't move anything, but the first 2 hours, oh my god! Like we had, and the whole wing went like this. The engine, blah 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 blah. And inside we had a wall. I was right in front of the wall of economy class. The wall, I don't know why it detached from the, but it went like boop, 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 boop. Everything is super. So when you land, the whole aircraft will sink a little bit and absorb the shock.
So what does it take to simulate that in the sim?
So right now we have that in the aerodynamic simulation. We don't yet do what I would call soft body on the airframe of all aircraft.
Okay.
That's something which is on a future to-do list. It would be like sort of bridge the gap between balloons and airplanes, so they would be obviously way more rigid, but not completely rigid, and have them be able. So right now you can do wing flex, but it's just an
Yeah, like
animation.
imagine like the propeller is spinning, and you know how some planes like you can literally see the panel and the fuselage is kind of vibrating.
Oh yeah, everything
a
shakes.
little bit,
Yeah, that's something which is for future developments, but it's something we're thinking seriously about.
So on the topic of super ultra technical things, I had a question that I asked my community about a while back, and they were asking about blade element theory. Does that mean anything to you? And is it in Microsoft Flight Sim?
So I think it's something, when you look it up on the internet, it was invented for simulation of propellers, wind turbines, for ships. How do you call it? It's propeller too?
Ship propeller, yeah.
Yeah, ship propellers. It's a very specific theory. So we didn't come from that angle, right? We really we wanted to simulate the surface we looked at the airplane like, okay, it's a surface, the air is flowing above it. So because in Blade, when they simulate, you see sometimes papers on wind turbines a lot because they want to really make a max of energy. They slice it up sort of, right, into slices and stuff. So we really simulate the surface, right, how the air flows over, and I think there's many different theories, right? We tried a bunch, and already I showed the video I showed you. You see how 4 different systems work together. It's really a combination of technologies to get the best accuracy and precision out of it. And I heard of it. So that's not exactly what we do.
So it's just another theory of all the theories.
Yeah, I mean,
to make it happen.
In the end, what happens in real life is just gazillions of particles interacting, right? So you need to approximate it somewhere. There's plenty of techniques to approximate that, and we choose the best ratio of, I would say, accuracy and performance, right? You want to have super good results and have it be as cheap as possible on the CPU.
And weather, how have you improved weather?
Oh, lots of improvements. So we have cirrus clouds. We have way thicker clouds on live weather. Live weather now it's much better because it's not just one live weather moment. You know, in the sim you want to play live weather. A lot of people love live weather. You finish your work day at 9. You're always gonna play at 9, right? What you do. Or you're in Europe, you fly the weekend, and you want to fly in the US, it's night. Okay. So now we have a 24-hour history. So you can, which is really what you need if you want to play anytime. So it allows you to play in the day, even if you're playing in the evening, play on anywhere on Earth, on day, on night. It also allows you, let's say you want to fly the same hour but several times. You know, you can go back to 3 o'clock, fly. You can go back to 3 o'clock. You can do it several times like that. So that's
historic weather.
Yeah, but only. So historic weather is extremely hard to do because it's tons of data, and it's tons of data we don't have. Like, how do we go back? So maybe if we start recording now, but how do we create data from 10 years ago? So what we did is we decided, okay, let's do one step. Let's do the most important thing here is 24 hours, so that it unlocks all that. You can play when you want, and or if you see, I don't know, you see something on TV, oh, this happened, oh, I want to see it, oh, it was 5 hours ago, you can still go back. Okay, you need to be fast, it's 24 hours, but we thought it was the biggest benefit for the user, and that was, I would say, technologically feasible for us, and we'll see where it goes later.
Any changes to thunderstorms, turbulence?
Microburst, wind shears,
all that,
shear alerts.
So we have some of it. We still have on our. So currently, when I showed the video, updraft and all that. There's still one step we want to go further in the future, which is put a CFD on that. Currently, that's still a simulation, which just, I would say, to summarize it, if you have fields, like fields which are hot, will create an updraft. And if you have that right in front of your final, you're going to have wind shear and stuff. What we don't do yet is, if there's many small fields, they would pretty much merge together and form one big chimney. So that's something we don't have yet fully like an airflow simulation, right? And that's something we will add in the future, but it does already. We already improved it quite a bit from 2020, especially because a lot of the atmospheric simulation was depending on cloud thickness, and cloud thickness is more realistic now in live weather. We get a lot more turbulence with whether it's TCU or storms, or just a nice day like this where there's a lot of updrafts under the clouds. That's better now. Yeah, that's also get improved, and so you will feel the improvement there.
But what about when you fly through like a thunderstorm or really bad weather, or even like a nasty looking cloud? Like usually, like in real life, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times you get like a really nasty chop or nasty turbulence through those. Has that been added? Because I know before it was kind of like you can kind of see a nasty looking cloud, you fly through it, and just like nothing ever happens.
That was mostly because the turbulence was related to the thickness. So if you go into custom and you go into weather and you in 2020, right, you create a cloud and you make it extremely dense, and then you fly through, you will get a lot of that. But in live weather, usually the clouds were too thin. And so now we have much better live weather data, and so I showed the picture, you can get very thick storms. So in order to get very big turbulence, they are still more frequent in hot weather. So thick clouds, summer, it's going to be a lot more. But yeah, that's going to be dramatically increased in intensity, right, in the middle of the clouds. I've measured easily 10,000 feet per minute updraft. In a Cessna, it dances, right? You're like, whoa, what's going on? It's what's going on. But that's a big change which has been made.
Is hail simulated at all on the?
No, we have rain, we have snow. We don't. I don't think we don't have that yet. That would be dangerous. Yeah,
it has been a lot historically.
Oh yeah.
How has the helicopter model changed between 2020 and 2022 when we were last talking in 2024?
So we update. So what we did on helicopters. So we improved the gears. We added. I think we support turbines now. We support. So if that's a rotor, 2020 we had only this or this. Right, now we added, you can have this, you can have this, you can have this, or you can have this. So there's a lot more combinations possible. And you saw, I think in the playlist, this one is planned. Mm-hmm. This one I tried a prototype because there's some
K50.
Yeah. This one it works. So it's a different thing, right? In this one, you can actually the way you turn or the way you do this, it works differently than on this helicopter. And so we have a complete system where you can basically direct the inputs onto all different sorts of outputs. We improved the shape. So the shape of the helicopter in 2022 was really just a box, the fuselage. Now you saw it's very accurate. You can, like the H125 has a shape of a very aerodynamic shape. So that makes the rotor wash, which goes down, more accurate. So I would say that simulation is going to be a bit more accurate, and also just the drag when you go forward is going to be more accurate. We have more. We have a lot more control over how we position the tail surfaces. So that's much better. Tail surfaces are important. And we just discussed, I did a flight in Sedona with a helicopter, Airbus. And we discussed a lot with the helicopter pilot, who said that, because on that flight, the helicopter was doing a lot of whoop, whoop, whoop. And he said, yeah, it's... when you have wind, basically the helicopter, it's a bit like a ship. They have a tail, and the ship wants to go into the wind. And on a plane, you don't notice a lot because, you're going fast, and so maybe you're crabbing a little bit, okay. But on a helicopter, if you're hovering and the wind is coming from behind, he said helicopter also always wants to turn around, so you keep fighting the wind with the pedals. So that's something which is much more accurate, because now we have more control over the surfaces we put at the tail, pretty much, which was a bit simplified in 2020.
Yeah, because you got loss of tail rotor effectiveness for aerodynamic stuff. Vortex ring state?
We have that, yeah. That we had in 22 already. We added basically ways for plane makers to query it, to know if it's happening and when it's happening, so that they can play audio, vibrations, and all that stuff. Even when I flew last week on the Airbus helicopter, even when the collective goes up, you hear it. It goes like, and the cabin vibrates. So these things, they have little almost like a measuring system where they can measure like how fast the air goes, and then you know that it's a vortex ring state if the air is not at the usual speed, right? And so that's stuff we added, but it was already simulated in the past. So the big improvement we made on that CFD simulation is that it's way faster than it used to be. Mm-hmm. So we didn't change the resolution because we think it's enough, but some plane maker can say, oh, I want more accuracy, I want more samples, right? I want more data in there. If you sit in the cabin of the Cabri and you turn on the engine and you move the collective, or even you do anything, you will feel the cabin is vibrating now. It was not. And if you go, for example, left or right, it does this little bit.
Okay.
And if you go on the rudder, it goes whoop. You feel it, and that's where basically you feel the twist. You can put it sort of in the middle and go up, and which avoids that. Obviously, yeah. If you lift, it's gonna go whoop. So you can feel that now. So these have the assistance on. You can turn it off. And I think they also said assistance was one big package. Now you can select if you want only rudder, and we added collective assistance because a lot of people were having issues to just hover. Like too much, too little, too much ground effect, and now we have a hover assistance where it just sort of it does the 10% adjustment for you.
Yeah.
So you can still go up and down if you want, but you sort of stay hover. It's gonna help you. So a lot of people struggle with that.
Does it do the vibration as it goes through ETL?
What do you?
Translift. Yeah. So
it does translift. It does.
Usually you get that both accelerating through and slowing
and
down.
And vibration.
You get that vibration that lets you know, hey, I'm in translift.
I don't think. I think plane makers can simulate it because they can now measure translift. Why is it? Is the translift caused by some turbulence or what? What is it causing?
As you're slow, it's speed dependent, right? So as you're
but
like
why is it
30 knots? So
is it
it's an airflow?
It's an airflow. It's like a turbulence in the airflow.
Yeah.
Or is it like a vibration in the blades?
It's turbulence in the airflow.
It's turbulence. So maybe
you're going from I'm generating lift like a helicopter to I'm an airplane. It's essentially that transition from.
Yeah, that I know. It adds a lot of lift. It's just a vibration. I don't know if we have. Maybe the thing is vibrations. Sometimes when you're a pilot, you feel them. But in the sim, well, you only have the camera, so you sort of look at.
Well, no, if you got a butt kicker, you've got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you can have the audio.
You can see the panel too. Like you can actually see it because it starts to shake.
Yeah. Oh my God! On Friday it was shaking all over. So no, I think we have the so the translift is simulated. Plane maker can measure it, so they can play animations of shake or audio. Because if it would shake, it would come from the CFD, and it's just the accuracy and the resolution of it. Is it small enough to do the turbulences which will shake the blades? That I'm not sure. It's maybe something we
because that would be one way to know if I'm approaching vortex ring state, right? I'm outside of translift and
but they can definitely add it as an animation and as an audio effect because it's measurable and you know when you're in, and vortex ring state also you know when you're in it.
Speaking of turbulence, AI and multiplayer wake turbulence, is that?
Yes, it's on everything.
On everything.
Every
aircraft. Do you have to turn that on, or is it automatically default on every plane?
So right now it's on everything. We have a dev mode to turn it off, and I think we want to do an option because sometimes you just don't want to have it. It costs nothing in terms of performance because it's completely asynchronous, and it costs if you draw. If you want to draw the effect like I did in the video, then obviously if you draw something new, it has a little bit of impact on performance. But if you just simulate it, it's free. On multiplayer, and also, so if the plane has a CFD, not all have, but if it has, we just copy paste the CFD into the other one and it just works.
Okay.
If the plane doesn't, if it's like created without, we still simulate. So for example, for a helicopter, we create a vortex and we put that into the wake. And for airplane, we create these wingtip vortices and the engine, and we put that into the wake. So you still get wake turbulence on multiplayer, on older planes, on traffic, on AI, whatever. Everything will have that. And it's so what we do is the longest we've seen it is 6 minutes. So we cut off at 6 minutes. And also what we try to do, I think it's the range is 10 miles or something, like far enough so that if you come, enough time has passed so that it's not there. So we don't simulate wake turbulence of aircraft which are on the other side of the globe. But anything the user could experience, we do simulate.
Do the ships generate any kind of air?
I wanted to add it, and everybody made fun of me, saying, hey, ships don't do wake turbulence. I said,
Add it.
why not? Why not? I wanted to add it, because I think if you want to land on a bigger...
It's tall enough. I mean,
Yeah, it should do something. Yeah. Definitely, it moves a lot of air. So I wanted to... We can put it on anything that's moving, so...
I
Ships,
have a good question about that. I haven't tried it in 2024 yet, but I know in 2020 I struggled to land on moving platforms or any platform on water because I felt like I wasn't sure if like that, the effect that you get, I guess vortex, whatever was happening to the platform or to the water. I wasn't sure like if those effects were going.
That has been improved in Simulate 15.
Okay.
So because before we had one, we basically do one measure array, and if it was here, you had the ground effect on the floor. If it's here, it's here, and if you're at the edge, it goes blub, 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 blub.
Yeah.
So now I think we take like 3 or 4 or something, and we average it out, and it slowly goes up, because we can only have one ground in the CFD. It's like it's not good enough to do like 2 or 3 different grounds. It has one, but we can move the ground as much as we want. So the ground is gonna go up like progressively, because we now have multi-samples. So that should be a little bit better. Someone suggested just a moment ago, I took notes, we will do grids, so that if the platform has grids, the ground effect will change. So that I took note, and I will write down the wake on ships. I think it's a very good idea.
Somebody brought it up. I was right.
Yes.
And next, we have David, the creative director of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. And he's going to talk a little bit more about, how career mode was built and why career mode was built this way.
That's the reason why we built the career this way, is like you have to unlock those certification and those things. But for someone who is not acclimated.
Yeah.
They will need to do the trainings, and even sometimes do several of those missions in order to really feel good with just flying a plane,
Yeah.
But if you are already comfortable, so typically I do not do any of the training. I directly go to the exam, and thanks to this, you basically bypass all the trainings, and you can drive your way pretty fast to the type of activity you want to do. And so it's the same for the certification thing. The reason why we did this is both for what we've observed based on the user research we made, is like for the majority, the huge majority of people playing the game, it's if we don't do this, they are lost.
Yeah, but is it an either or? Like you're saying, if they don't do it, they're lost. But what we're saying is, if we're an experienced user, there should be, because I did see it in the menu, by the way. There was a menu that said advanced options, because I actually ended up doing missions because I'm like, hey, is there a way around it?
Yeah, but it's a debug option in order to basically it's a save. Basically, it's a save for a much advanced profile. But honestly, the other argument I would have for you, it's the fact that when you are a simmer, you play a lot. So basically, it's this issue we are talking about. It's like in 6 hours, you will gonna have open almost everything. I mean, everything you want to have open. So it's not like if you would have to farm during 3 weeks before you can even start to do the Canada experience. So on the lifespan of the game, it's not a big deal. You will basically, have to wait for, 2-3 days of play before you can actually, maybe, depending on the amount of time, but basically it's a weekend, So that's the angle we have taken on that.
What is the process by which you've selected these career fields and expanded? Do you have the capability to expand to others in the future?
Like add careers.
Sure. Add different careers. Like
we have lots in the pocket. I will not talk about it.
Well, because for me, I am a law enforcement pilot. I fly helicopters for a sheriff's office.
Yeah.
So I think it would be cool to have law enforcement missions, and there are ways to do that in there. Is it just, you don't have to spoil anything, but is the expansion capability for other careers something that you're open to and available?
Sure. Actually, we have lots of activity that were, at some point we need to focus on. So and some of the missions are more important in order to make everyone feels comfortable than others, because what your actual real life job is actually super hard if you're not a good pilot. Basically, it's about flying and reach a given point in space, which is moving, and sometimes moving pretty fast. I'll let you imagine. People sometimes don't even able to come back to the airport. They just take off, So there is so many things to take in account in order before you can actually do this mission for real, that it's a much more advanced type of activity, but we have clearly, I can say it, start to prototype that a long time ago. So I would say, I don't know, maybe we will see, but it will.
Well, not just, I'm just saying generally speaking.
In general, it was just an example.
Yeah, there's so many different careers that you can do in aviation.
Of course.
And I don't know this. Do you go regional to major? Is there a progression like that, or is it just you're an airline pilot, you fly whatever? Like how?
So basically how it works is each time you do a mission somewhere and you land somewhere, you expand your area of influence, I would say, and it basically unlocks new occurrency of a given type of mission in the area you have just announced. But you can also teleport yourself. It will have a cost, but it's tiny, somewhere else on the planet. So basically, if you start, let's say in France, but suddenly you want to continue your career in America or in Australia, I don't know, or in Namibia, you will going to be able to go there and to continue your path. So you can pick up the type of activity you want among all the activity we propose, but you can also do them on a given spot or any other given spot, and either you will move forward and expand your area, or do multiple area in different places.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty free, basically. It's pretty free.
And what about, is it possible to do multiplayer while doing career at the same time?
No multiplayer on career.
Okay. So it's just you and the multiplayer. Sorry, not multiplayer, in the career. And then I guess you're progressing throughout, earning more missions like that, but you can't see anyone else.
So you will be able to see what the others are doing in the career, which level they have reached, or
like your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. But you won't see their plane if they want to fly with you or something like that.
No.
Any thoughts of doing that, or?
There is lots. We still needs to do. So for now, no.
And then also, I mean, I know it's a different mode, like free mode, but this might come back to our original question, but say I want to do I want to continue my career, right, through career mode, or maybe I don't. Maybe I just want to go to free flight.
Yep.
And from there, I want to load into a helicopter.
Yep.
And do a mission. Can I load missions through free flight, or it's only in the career?
No, you will be
section?
able to pilot every single plane that is featured in your career, obviously in free flight. So if you want to, for example, take the AT808 and fly it and spray, you will be able to, and you will
but
be able.
But it won't give you any feedback on whether you.
No,
it won't tell you where to go or anything like that.
No.
Right? And so with the search and rescue or firefighting stuff like that, that's only going to be in career. You can't spawn a fire in Lake Tahoe or something.
No.
You've worked with the High Performance Group on the new helicopter. They have a very robust mission system. Did you work with them for some of these missions?
No, not at all.
They were the first to really do that.
No, we obviously, we have looked at almost every add-on and or this type of thing. I would say we had, I think you get it, but we had to really generate a huge amount of mission in order to deliver the promise we have exposed. And this is based on what we call solving. And what is solving is I will take an example. Let's pretend we talk about medevac. So someone break his leg doing ski, snowboarding, and you need to bring him as fast as possible to the closest airport. In order to do this type of mission, first you need to find an airport which is close enough to a ski station to make it relevant. Because if it's in the middle of the valley, there is no way. This scenario doesn't happen in real life.
Yeah.
So you basically need to find ski station. So we use data We collect data in order to know, okay, where are the ski stations? So which type of airport is close enough to the ski station? Which type of airport can actually, what is the length of the runway in order to be sure that with the airplane you will gonna use, it's actually professional to actually make a landing here. All those things together, so it's just an example, and the altitude also, because, you know, and the payload, blah, blah, blah. So we solve those things, and we solve every single potential mission that will address the scenario I've just explained. And it's a completely different, it's basically a data-driven sort of approach.
Yeah.
And it's not compatible with uncrafted things. There is no way an actual human can even scratch the surface of the amount of mission we need to do. Especially if you multiply this by the amount of aircraft / type of activity.
So I had another question. Could I, for example, like would the SDK allow for me to use the new tech you guys have made for the missions? Like, for example, like the executive missions where you have like a jet come up and you have people walking up to that. Could I take advantage of that and create my own mission series for players to enjoy?
It's clearly something we discuss a lot. But we need to, again, you know, in order to make a tool which is user friendly for everyone, because everyone wants to do exactly what you said.
Yeah.
So because everyone has a sort of personal experience, you know, that you're like, I'm a fan of this. I know this mission would be so cool because of whatever the reason. Because I know this festival and they are doing this and this and this, or there is a real life air show on a given spot. It would be so cool if blah 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 blah. Everyone has an idea, but in order to make it, we need to basically create a pipeline that match what I was explaining right before with the generation system, or to be really uncrafted, which is another option. And so we need to build the tool that will work with the rest of the carrier. But it may come. We are thinking really about this. Jorg is a big fan of this idea.
Because I know a lot of people, like even right now, I mean, in 2020, people have kind of created their own missions. They're obviously not as detailed what you have, but they create their own missions in certain areas, would be helicopter, firefighting, or just picking up somebody. I thought it'd be cool if I could just be like, hey, I know of a really cool flight, and I want to create maybe a specific firefight mission in a specific area in the world. Like a mission editor, basically.
It's. I mean, maybe I wasn't clear, but it was exactly what I was trying to say right before.
Okay.
Like, we are looking for. We will in the future. I don't know when.
Yeah. I just know that
propose
would
an
take
editor
off.
in order to leverage the community ideas and implement this in the carrier. But it's definitely not the case yet.
So the mission, the career path is extremely civilian oriented, right? Because it's a civilian sim, and that makes sense. Has there been any talk of like a undergraduate pilot training level with like a T6, T38 stuff like the U.S. Air Force uses to show the military side of things?
Great question.
Great. So, okay, we have the closest type of mission we have, based on what you just described, is the mission we do with the A400M.
Okay.
Because it's a military plane, but with no weapon, and you know the mantra of flight sim is no weapon.
Right.
No
Well,
game.
pilot training.
I know exactly.
PT would be 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's typically the type of mission which is unlocked when your level of reputation is very high. You can access to this type of extreme sort of mission, which is the A400M, which is a remote cargo mission, where the idea here is to basically apply what they do in real life sometime with this type of plane, which is being able to land, I mean, either to fly very high and to be out of reach of the radar or missiles, and go super fast to the ground level and land on a very remote place, which is most of the time not even a runway, and do this as fast as you can. So it's something which exists, which will gonna exist at launch. But I would say it's the I think the only one which is really in the military field.
Yeah, C-17 exists, but you're not doing it.
But we will see. I don't want to.
I mean, there's also the civilian side of hurricane hunting. You know, if you've got this new weather generation
You actually
system.
spot on, because it's the other type of mission with the Tornado, which is hidden. Hidden. You know what I mean? Like you need a very high reputation to access to this type of mission.
Right.
And
So what you're saying is there are unlockable missions that are outside of career paths that are
but I give
one-offs.
you almost. I mean, it's not secret, but people will actually realize at some point that, oh my God, how did you access to Tornado? Maybe it's because of the appropriate level and the good reputation, and that's the reason why.
So can you see other players in multiplayer free mode walking around in their AI model, their avatar models?
Not outside of the plane yet, but it would come.
Gotcha. But we can't see inside the plane. Like if I'm flying multiplayer with him
Yes.
and I have my model, he has
Basically,
his
what we
model.
don't have is like meeting on ground with your
Gotcha.
other avatar. We don't have it yet. I mean, I cannot guarantee. We will try, but it will come at some point.
So I asked David, what are you most proud of with the new Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024?
But the synergy between all the different things we have bring all together, it's probably the thing I'm the most proud of. I would say, second part of the answer, clearly I would say that what we are trying to do with the carrier is, in my opinion, something that has never been done at this level of density, complexity, variety, and also as come as you are, because it's so easy to make. I mean, we could have done this in a very casual way to make it accessible for everyone, but you guys would have been upset and it would have been useless. You know what I mean? and on purpose, you know. I mean, you would have been right. Or on this other side, we could have done a career where nobody could play to, except basically the hardcore simmers, which is not great for the product, because at the end of the day, if we do not open the sim to everyone possible, it's not good for any of us, you know, because it allows us, the success of flight sim allows us to push the limit of the sim in general. So it's great to embrace as large possible public. And I think it's what was super hard to design and to think and with lots of technical constraint and innovation we had to do, is the fact that you can really play the career as an hardcore or as a casual person.
And so with that point, so say for example, I go down the airliner path. So when I select that flight to do, how does that start? Does it throw me on the runway and I just take off and then fly, or can I start at the gate and like go through my whole code and dark flight plan procedure?
Because I did the firefighting thing and it started me step one, day 0. Like I had to, you know, I could have skipped it, but right, it starts at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Not sure to get the completely question, but I think I will gonna answer anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Is when you start your career, you start out really as a rookie pilot. So you need to basically earn your wings and your certification in order to be able to basically have all the certification that qualifies you to do airliner type of job. But as soon as you get this, when you start an airliner mission, which is, by the way, based on real life flights, so basically the flights you will gonna be able to do in the career are actually on a given date, on a given place, the flight that actually occurs in real life.
Is it just on the aircraft that are in the sim now, or like, will you have 787 flights and? What airplanes will it involve?
All the airplanes we have in the sim, basically.
So the 787 is one of them, like long haul international stuff like that.
What about the third party?
And to answer to the end,
No, you're fine.
you will start at the gate. I mean, when it's the medevac, you will see a bit cinematic that will introduce the fact that someone arrives and blah blah blah. But when you will do the airline, it's not about the same subject. It's about people walking on the jetway and entering into the plane, and that's how it starts.
So the cinematic is that thing before it says ready to fly. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
We kept it super short, but at least it gives a sort of flavor and context.
That's one thing I was wondering about was those cinematics, if they were only like the ready to fly cinematic, or if you could see that just like in the world. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Like go ahead.
No, it's only when you are
cinematic.
playing the carrier. Yeah.
Okay, and it's only in the career mode as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Because this type of mission are only happening in carrier mode.
Gotcha.
So to your point, how in depth are the airliner missions? Like, are you talking to dispatch? Are you CPDLC to people? Like, are you doing all this stuff, or is it still pretty basic? Like, if there's weather, can I call dispatch and get extra fuel added to my flight plan?
As I was saying, you can really do everything you would have done in this type of flight that you would have done in free flight.
Okay.
So
it just kind
it's
of
a
tells
way
you-
to answer that. Does it mean that it's as deep as you want it to be?
Well, it's not. Trust me, I don't want. I do it in real life. I don't want to do it in fake.
No, but what I mean is,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. It's
Yeah.
like obviously it depends on the level of depth of a given plane but ultimately everything you will going to be able to do in free flight to prepare your flight with what Chris explained, the AFB, extra, all of that is available in the mission
So
itself.
basically, the airline career will say, all right, you're flying to this from A to B, and then how you get there is up to you.
If it's
So whether I fly straight there, I want to set up a whole IFR flight plan.
VFR,
You know what I'm saying? Like how I get there, like the career doesn't necessarily care. They just want you to make sure you get to where you're going. 'Cause I saw in the glider when you showed us where it judged them based on like how accurate they were flying, the flight path and things like that. Is there anything like that in there for an airliner?
You have to. So in the criteria to actually score the
best
commercial
score.
flight in general is the comfort of the
Passengers.
of the passenger, because if you fly like stupidly, obviously people are not happy. Respect of the procedure and respect of the flight path. So that said, if you update by yourself your flight path because you decide you want to avoid, I don't know, bad weather, for example, it will still work. Yeah.
Will you get a bad score if you have to go around?
Oh god.
Oh god, yeah.
Go arounds are free. Don't teach that. Don't start teaching that. That's a bad habit. We get paid by the minute.
Not
man.
yet.
Yeah.
We actually work on this exact idea, but we didn't find yet a robust enough system that would not allow to cheat or to avoid the core of the spirit of the mission, I would say. Yeah.
Do you have advisors in each career field? Like specific to like an airline advisor, a firefighting advisor? It sounds like you at least have a firefighter because that comm looked pretty decent when I was doing it. So do you have specific advisors that do the thing in real life that you're talking to?
You mean in real life that
Yeah.
we have met in order to build these things?
Yeah, like
I think so.
Like on staff, do you have somebody that you go, hey, what do you do here?
So, sorry, you mean do we, as Azobo, do we met some real life people in order to inform how it works in the sim?
Yes.
Yes, in most of the case, I would say. We did this with skydiving, we did this with agricultural aviation, we did this with the firefighting, so I said it?
Yeah.
We did this also with commercial, actual airliner pilot, Air France airliner pilot. We talked about it, about tornado missions also. We had a chance to talk to some
Tornado missions. Who flies it in a tornado?
I was gonna
Scientific
ask
research.
about that.
Who is doing
Since you
tornado?
brought it up, tornadoes and supercells. Is that only in the career, or can tornadoes spawn in the free world? Free world.
That might be a Seb question here in a little bit.
No. I mean, I'm not sure. Sorry.
No,
I prefer to be honest. I'm not sure in this case.
Okay.
For sure in the career, I'm not sure.
What's your reputation in the career right now?
A.
Nice.
Oh, actually,
How many credits
the
do you
highest.
have? How many credits do you have in the career right now? Do you own your own airline?
I did not. I didn't have time to go as far.
Can someone own their own airline?
Sure.
Blue Airlines coming your way.
So maybe I was not understandable enough before, but basically, I think you get the point. It's like at some point, basically your level is high enough and the amount of money is high enough, and I think there is another criteria about certification. I think is high enough. You will gonna be able to create your own business and
buy your own planes.
Airliners are super expensive planes, so it takes a long time to actually earn all of this money. But you can, something I didn't have time to talk about is like you can buy second-hand plane.
Oh, used airplanes.
Because at the beginning it's less expensive, but it's a little bit like cars, you know.
Maintenance costs go up.
Exactly, and there is good plane to buy and not so good plane to buy.
How does the wear and tear system? Okay, I didn't go into too much detail today about it, but I know it gets dirty, like in the bushes and whatnot. But anything else, performance-wise?
It's basically every single system that we were talking about in terms of hydraulic, fuel, electricity, gears, tires, even the shell, aileron, etc. We permanently calculate how is it damaged or not, and I mean damage. You know, it's a bit like a car. There is the thing that gets used. You know what I mean? Just because you're using it. I'm not talking about a bad habit. It's like a car where you need to change the tires at some point, even if you drive normally. So those type of things are taken in account. But also, if you land too hard on a runway, you will basically damage both the gears and maybe even potentially the shell. And you can repair it, or you can replace the piece of the things that have been damaged, and it costs you some money, obviously. So it's not good for your business.
And that system is only in place in career mode, correct?
Yes, I mean technically no, but that's also the other thing with the career mode is like, if you think really about this, a true wear and tear system only exists if the plane has a persistency.
Yeah.
So in a flight, in a 12-hour flight, normally except the failure that could happen if you land too hard. Yeah, you can break your gear, for example, I don't know. But it's very on-off sort of things, you know. It's not a long-term way of using your plane that informs its status, 10 flights after.
So we're really thankful that Asobo Studios and Microsoft Flight Sim were very transparent with us throughout this entire interview. I hope you saw some value in this. Hopefully some of your questions got answered as well. I know that I have even more questions now, but we only had a limited amount of time to interview these guys. But we'll definitely tell you more of our thoughts and opinions on the new simulator as those facts arise. But thank you guys so much for watching. Both me and XP are really looking forward to the new Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. Let us know your thoughts, as always, down in the comments. And we will see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching the Blu-XPerience Flight Sim and Aviation Podcast.